7:01 on Wednesday, November 19th, and I will call the zoning board of appeals meeting to order. I have with me in the room from the board, John Benares, Rob Scott, Georgia Pendergast, Colleen Moore, Sean Vaughn, and myself, Sarah Miller. There are 6. So that on the applications, there will be 5 voting members, so Colleen is the associate. She won't be voting on somebody. We have 3 applications tonight. We're going to start with 53 Summer Street, then we're going to do 48 Norwood Ave, and lastly, we're going to do 22 Union. So the first application, 53 Summer Street, is requesting a special permit to add a roof dormer to an existing non-conforming structure. I move to open the public hearing for the application of Mike Kirk for a special permit under section 7.2, 7.5 of the zoning bylaw, and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a roof dormer on an existing non-conforming dwelling which encroaches into the front, rear, and side setback on a non-conforming lot. At 53 Summer Street, Assessor's Map number 14, lot number 8 in District A, filed with the town clerk on October 20th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Georgia, second. Take a roll call vote. John?
Approved.
Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Sarah? Somebody here to present the application to us?
Yes, hello, Remco Bruker Design LLC here in Manchester, and the owner, Michael Kirk. See you again. And so we'd like to show this to you. I'm not sure, I think digital is probably difficult. I can do that right here if everybody's okay with that. I'll let Michael talk a little bit more about the project and where that started.
Yeah, my wife and I, we reside at 34 Vine Street. We purchased the 53 Summer maybe 6-7 months ago, and had to do a considerable amount to maintain the structure. Needed some work, and as part of that renovation, we're here to ask your consideration for the shed dormer. You know, our plans for the house are to house my parents who are aging out in Seattle. So we're hoping that this could be a convenient spot in town for them to spend some years. So Remco has designed a shed dormer to give us a little more headspace on the second.
Great, thank you. Construction had started, and then at that time, essentially downstairs had been configured. Upstairs was not configured quite as good as Michael had wanted, and so the contractor contacted me. That's why construction started a little earlier than our application. But we have not done any work on the dormer area, so that's what we're talking about today. It's a very small lot for that area. It's in District A. So it has large setbacks, and what we're dealing with is, in fact, Summer Street is here. The front yard line is right here. So the entire house essentially sits in the front yard. The rear yard overlaps it as well. So again, the entire house is completely non-conforming. In fact, it's very close to the lot line, partially over there. And then on the side, the one area that it does conform is on the side, the east side. West side here, well. So we knew that expanding the footprint also from the point of view of just the space that's on site is really not doable. And so we thought we could request to expand top floor a little bit in terms of headroom. So here you see The first floor, again, we're not really touching that footprint. Renovations have happened, a lot of structural work on the inside. The area that we're requesting relief for is this hatched area right here. And that's the dormer. We're not exceeding the current height of the building. Ridge height stays the same. And we are expanding, this is the street facade right here. We're just expanding it approximately 42 inches from the current eave line up, and then bringing that shed dormer back to the ridge. This shows you the rear that nobody will see, and this shows you the side that people will see as they're oncoming from Manchester towards Gloucester. Again, it's a fairly simple shed dormer with a few windows in it. We're trying to mimic the nice trim detail that the roof has, the building has, and keep it very much in keeping with what it is. Contractors talked to the neighbor immediately adjacent to this side here. She seems fine. She said nobody will give you any trouble, so to speak. So we think we're in keeping with both the neighborhood as well as surrounding structures and people there. That's straightforward. No question.
No questions.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this application? Wait a minute, Don, I gotta admit everyone. Unfortunately, this meeting was set up with a waiting room, so I have to admit people. Don't usually have them set up with a waiting room. What?
There's a lot of people waiting.
Can you see the tone of your one? For people just joining, we're doing the application of 53 Summer Street, and I am asking if there's any member of the public who wishes to speak on this application or ask a question. If so, please raise your hand in Zoom. With that, we'll move to a motion. Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing. I move to close the public hearing and have the board enter into deliberations with respect to the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
John. Roll call vote. John. Rob.
Yes.
Georgia.
Yes.
Colleen. Yes. John.
Yes.
Sarah. With that, I will make a motion. I move to approve the application of Mike Kirk for a special permit under section 7.2 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a roof dormer, which is approximately 25 feet by 10 feet on an existing non-conforming structure which encroaches into the front, side, and rear setback on a non-conforming lot at 53 Summer Street, Assessor's Map number 14, Lot number 8, in District A, filed with the town clerk on October 20th, 2025, based on a finding the proposed roof dormer is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw will not be substantially more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood in which it is located than the existing non-conforming dwelling, and the requirements under section 12.5.2 of the zoning bylaw for the grant of a special permit have been met. Based on the condition, the roof dormer is constructed substantially in accordance with the following documents and plans prepared by Brooker Design LLC, dated October 10th, 2025. T 1.0 proposed site plan, E 1.0 existing plans and elevations, A 1.0 proposed floor plans, and A 2.0 proposed elevations and sections.
Sorry, that screen just.
Okay. Crash? I don't know.
They had problems in the meeting before me with it crashing, but then we were able to get it back.
Okay. Has that been happening a lot?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I mean, this room is still showing on Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
This
good.
would be good. It's just for your sake to be able to see if
Okay.
someone's talking.
So we are on camera and we are being
Yeah,
broadcast. just
exactly.
to
So
make
you're
the
good to
note.
keep going.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a second to the motion?
Yes.
John, second. Any discussion? We good that it's not substantially more detrimental than the existing house?
I think it looks a lot better having the dormer go.
Take a vote. John? Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
John?
Approve.
Sarah votes yes. Would somebody like to write this?
I'll review it.
John? Okay. Georgia will review. You got off that one, John.
I want to get on that one because I don't want to.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one, Ron.
Marletta, if you're on Zoom, is it possible for you to go in and eliminate the waiting room? It's gonna be on. Okay. Next application is 48 Norwood Ave. We will consider this application for a variance and a special permit for a large accessory dwelling unit, ADU. Since this is our first ADU application before us, and the bylaw was just approved by the Attorney General in October, I'll give a brief explanation of the two types of ADUs allowed, each of which is a separate use under our bylaw. First, there's a standard accessory dwelling unit. It's allowed in all districts except the limited commercial district. It must conform with coverage and setback requirements and is not larger than the lesser of half the gross floor area of the existing dwelling, or 900 square feet. And only one per lot is allowed. It requires one off-street parking space if it's more than a half mile from the train station, and no parking spaces if it's within a half a mile. The other ADU use is a large accessory dwelling unit. It requires a special permit and is not allowed in districts D1, D2, G, and LCD. It must conform with coverage requirements and setback requirements for a primary structure. It is only allowed on a lot with a single-family residence. No more than one ADU per lot is allowed. They must meet the parking requirement, and it cannot be larger than the lesser of half the gross floor area of the existing dwelling, or 1,200 square feet. Okay, board's on board with that? Okay. With that, I move to open the public hearing for the application of David and Jane Matrano for a special permit under sections 9.1.3 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw and/or other relief as may be necessary to construct a 1,086 square foot large ADU and variances under sections 9.1.3 and 12.3.3 under other relief as may be necessary to construct a large ADU in District D1, which encroaches into the primary side and rear setbacks at 48 Norwood Ave, Assessors Map number 30, Assessors Map number 50, Lot number 19, in District D1, filed with the town clerk on October 16, 2020. Do I have a second? Second. George, a second. Roll call vote. John? Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Sarah? Is somebody here to present the application?
Veronica.
Veronica
This is
Hudson?
Jane and David.
Hi, okay.
Veronica Hobson, Taproot Design. So, we are also learning as the town is learning. So this is, so bear with us and we'll explain what's going on. In spite of the relief that we're here seeking tonight, we think that the Matranos are exactly the kind of family that this bylaw is meant to serve. As they enter the stage of life where multi-story independent living becomes more and more of a challenge, this bylaw affords them the ability to stay in their home and their community as their son and his family move into the main house, and they would take residence in the single floor ADU. They, Jane has been in this community. She was born and raised on that lot. The house has been in the family for 100 years. They are so embedded in this community. So this is where they want to remain. Sorry, makes me emotional.
We're better.
I agree.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so what exists on the lot today? This is in the rear left corner of the lot. There's an existing two-car garage with another little room included in there. It's a little over 750 square feet. The additional room is a workshop, but once upon a time it was a preschool that James ran. And so and currently it sits 1.5 feet off of the left lot line, and it sits 2 feet off the rear lot line. So the plan is the proposal is to demolish that structure. There's no proper foundation footing, just given the age of the structure, and to construct this new ADU for them. And in doing so, what we would like to do is to pull it away from each of the lot lines to allow a 5-foot offset from both the left side and the rear. And this will allow circulation around the structure if there's any maintenance that's needed. And we are looking for dimensional relief from those setbacks. We feel that it's appropriate for the lot given the context. And can I just steal a corner of your? Yes. Okay. So this is a locust map, and so this is their home, and this is the current accessory structure in the back corner, and this is the shape of the lot. The grade climbs dramatically once you hit the rear lot line. This is an accessory structure here. This is the neighbor's primary structure here with an accessory structure actually closer to the road. The location of the existing structure, there's a lot of room around that structure, even as it sits, almost right on the line from the surrounding buildings. And so we, in order for this multi-generational family living situation to work, it has to work for everyone. And so what we are trying to do is to maintain some of rear yard for family gatherings, for the children, the grandchildren to play. If we pull this structure completely away from the lot lines to conform to the setbacks, it literally obliterates the backyard. The other thing that it does is it crowds the house. So the visual density that it creates by moving it closer to the house is actually more detrimental, we feel, to the structure than keeping it in the rear left corner where it exists today, where there are no other structures in close proximity. So I apologize for these really fuzzy, like Google shots, but what I'm going to try and show you, if I can point it out, is this is the structure that we would be taking down. This is the main house here. This is their next door neighbor. These are the accessory structures of the houses behind. And this is where the grade dramatically climbs up, and you can see there's a very tall retaining wall right there. So again, this is the structure that would be removed. So it would be in this approximate location, but just pulled in a little bit, but accessory climbing steeply here, and that's a retaining wall. So again, that would be this is the structure here that would be replaced. And very dramatically here. So this would come this way to look at this primary structure. So we are looking to keep this structure in a similar location, the existing accessory, for a host of reasons. We don't feel it's detrimental to any of the neighboring properties, that it remain kind of where it is, and it preserves a functional backyard for this multi-generational family to coexist together. We are asking for a larger footprint than the 900 square feet for the smaller ADU, but well under the large ADU. We have obviously a district challenge because we are a D1. But within the spirit of that, if D1 were included in that large ADU, we would be still over 100 square feet underneath that limit. The reason for the extra square footage, it's easy to get an ADU with a single bedroom and 900 square feet, but it's near impossible to get it with 2 bedrooms. But given David's medical situation conditions, they really need 2 separate bedrooms for them both to, sleep well. And as you age, sleep is very, very important. So we are asking for relief from square footage as well. And I'm not sure if that is the variance piece or not, because I'm still kind of learning about this, but we asked for both variance and the special permit just to make sure that we were covered and that the town was covered, whatever might be granted. Happy to answer any questions you have.
The challenge we have is that when the ADU bylaw was created, it created 2 separate ADUs as 2 separate uses. So it has the standard and the large. And they excluded the large from District D1. And under our bylaw, the ZBA is not allowed to give a variance for a use. So in order to have the large ADU in this district, you need a variance, and we can't grant. I agree. This makes sense. This is what we wanted. But unfortunately, the way the bylaw is, we can't grant a variance, but I think there are other options that you might want to consider. One is you could obviously decrease the size to 900, which you stated is a problem in order to get the 2 bedrooms. You could connect the ADU to the main structure via a covered walkway, and then it would be part of the primary structure, and you would need a variance for the 5 feet versus 10 feet for the second. Another option is you can make the house 2-family, all integrated 2-family if you wanted. The other thing is I'm going to suggest to the planning board that the town might consider amending the bylaw at the April town meeting to allow the large ADUs in districts D1 and D2 by special. I don't know if the planning board will entertain that, and I don't know if town meeting will pass. So given all of those circumstances, I'm wondering if you wish to continue it to consider your option.
I think we do. Yeah, I think we would like to ask for continuance, where we can talk about
Well-
the other two avenues. I think April feels like maybe a stretch. Needs are increasing. So, but yeah, I think a continuance at this point, so we can discuss and.
Okay. Does members of the board have questions?
No.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this application? If so, raise your hand in Zoom. Okay.
So
Sarah, sorry,
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
do have a question.
Yeah,
And just to clarify for
Yeah, no
myself
problem.
and maybe people in the public, so they're requesting two variances, one for the use of a
Yes.
ADU and then one for raising the building and relocating it.
No. No,
Variance to
that's not a
construct-
variance.
Okay, a variance to construct a new building containing the ADU, so that would be the use, and a variance to construct the building within the primary sub. I was just wondering, in my mind, the accessory building was already non-conforming.
Correct.
So would it be a variance for the use and then a special permit for it? This is a question I don't need an
No,
answer to now, but I
the-
was just wondering, they're
the-
already non-conforming, so I didn't know if they
The-
had.
The way the bylaw was written was that a large ADU has to conform with the setback.
Got it.
For a
Regardless.
primary structure, therefore, the existing nonconformity is for an accessory structure
Got it.
setback.
Okay.
So even though it's called an accessory structure,
Okay.
And is there a square footage limitation on an accessory structure? Let's say it wasn't an ADU, if it was just an accessory
No.
structure, there's no limitation on that.
no. But you can't use it as a residence. You can't, you could have an accessory structure without a kitchen. And people could live there. Happens all the time.
No
You can't hit the kitchen.
So it's the kitchen that's the
It's
trigger.
the stove, right?
Yeah,
The stove is the trigger for the.
Yeah, because if you don't have the stove, then it's not considered habitable because you can't cook.
Okay.
You have
So-
a wet bar, you have a sink, dishwasher, but you can't.
Right, so I guess that, does that then pose a fourth option, which is if we remove the range
Mhm.
from the plan, then we would simply at that point be seeking a special permit then for the dimensional nonconformity.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's another option.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
It's-
yeah, it is.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I know you didn't write it.
And are they our first ADU after the
Yes.
bylaw passing? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the Attorney General, I think, approved it on October 21st and changed the requirements for the standard ADU. Made them less restrictive, but not for the large, but still, it's I think that what I've heard is when the planning board was doing the bylaw, the assumption was that because you can do a two-family, did you really need an ADU?
Mm.
Okay.
But I understand that if I had a young family in the house, I would want to be detached.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from the board? No, okay.
Does that make sense?
You're okay with the continuance? Yeah, no choice, right?
Unfortunately, our hands are tied.
Right. So at the, good, waiting one second. At the request of the applicant, I move to continue the public hearing to, I'm assuming you want it as soon as possible.
Yes,
To be the
please.
December meeting,
Yes, please.
which would be, December 17th. So December 17th, 2025 at 7 p.m. And you would be first on the agenda. We always do the continuance.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Before you leave, I'd like us to, can I find if you want to name and date? That's fine. You can put your name in. Sorry about that. Not in. The next application we're going to consider is 22 Union Street for a height variance and a special permit for change of use in non-conforming structure. The height restriction under our bylaw contains two restrictions. One is if you can sign into Zoom, then you can present on Zoom. It has two restrictions. One, it can't exceed 35 feet, which is the vertical distance measured from the average grade of the existing ground level, adjoining the building at each exterior wall to the highest point of the roof. It also cannot exceed 2.5 stories. Half story is defined as a floor level with a roof above, most floors have roofs. And you measure it 4 feet high in the story, that's the third story, or the half story. And it cannot exceed 2/3 of the floor area of the level immediately below it. And that's why they're asking for a variance, because it's exceeding the 2/3 of the floor below. I just want to give him time to get logged in so that he can get it on the screen. There's no.
Get paid by there.
What?
You get paid by.
Can you share? I have to do something.
That's a request.
Can somebody just hit that allow button on that screen? Thank you.
Thank you for your.
For some reason, it doesn't come up on mine. Okay. I move to open the public hearing for the application of 22 Union Street LLC for a special permit under sections 4 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to to a change of use in a non-conforming structure from retail to retail and residential, and a variance under sections 5.5 and 12.3.3, and or other relief as may be necessary to construct a building with 3 stories instead of 2.5 stories, which does not exceed a height of 35 feet at 22 Union Street, Assessors Map number 51, Lot number 62 in District G, filed with the town clerk on October 20th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Georgia, second. Roll call vote. John? Rob?
Yes.
Georgia?
Yes.
Colleen? Yes. Don?
Yes.
Sarah votes yes. Would you like to present?
Thank you. Yes, we would. Good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Zager. I'm attorney at Choate Hall & Stewart, Boston. I'm here with Chris Stein of Van Stein Architects and Boardman Development, primary architects on the project. We're very happy to be here tonight. A lot of effort has gone into the plan. As some of you may know, Valves started with an A that contemplated a courtyard street that was revised before the Historic District Commission by had a certificate of appropriateness for a 2-unit plan that was designed to comply with all of our dimensional requirements. During those hearings, there were really 2 pieces of criticism, 2 general themes that occurred from both town officials and citizens, which was we want commercial, and the second one was from some of the architectural community who really disfavored the break in the building facade. They felt the streetscape should sort of remain intact, and that a better design would not break the building apart from the structure of the Gladstone building store and continue the streetscape to have a more vibrant downtown feel. So the plan tonight really is meant to address both of those concerns head on. It guarantees at least some commercial space on the first floor and keeps that facade intact. Sarah did an excellent job summarizing this meeting's question. Our goal is here to build a building that can last and adapt generations to come and really serve the community. So what we'd like to do is have Chris go through all of the architectural elements. We can ask questions, and then I can address the legal aspects of the special permit.
Okay.
So, Pat, and over to Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Chris Vance of Boardman Developments, also Van Stein, address 85 Bond Drive. Early. I'm going to work off this slide deck. I don't want to turn and good screen in the audience here, but okay. I do have some printed full slide deck. So here I'm just starting with the site survey of the existing conditions. I know that most of us are familiar with the 22 Union building, which is the former Cargo Unlimited building. You can see that the building itself, the footprint, takes up a pretty large portion of the site. It is an L shape here. There is a full basement under the west side of the building. And then there's a slab on grade
Mary, you can sit in one of these chairs and turn it
on the
around.
east side.
Sorry.
That's okay. And there is a drive that accesses the back parking lot, which also services the drive 18 Union Start left up to their area. There is an existing fence here that limits access to the roof because we are on the back site and step right onto the roof cargo building. We also have a shared wall with Gladstone building here, property. And you can see that it's 0 lot along the street. Right, sidewalks right at my. So the next slide here is just showing some of the existing condition photos. When we purchased the property, we did understand sort of the extent of disarray and sort of lack of investment in the property to current structural stability. Go in there. I know a few of us joined us evening, but the roof is leaking. It's extremely deteriorated. There's a lot of mold that's starting to propagate, and the facade itself is starting to disintegrate. Was coated at some point in its life with a non-breathable paint, so it's actually disintegrating on the inside. So all that gas off. So these are some of the photos of the interior. So here you can see the deterioration that's been taking place. The parapet's leaking. Water is flowing in to a lot of the fenestration. These are some of the images back of the properties. Right up, right, upper left, back, back, yeah, top right, part. Quickly, just going through a little bit of site context and where we derived our design from. We're in front of Historic. We worked pretty extensively with the Commission on our previous submission. What we're showing you tonight is not a deviation from what you get a certificate of appropriateness for. All the details, the actual front elevation is virtually the same. We did add a infill commercial piece that I'll show you in a minute. But if we look at the context along Union Street, we do see a lot of 3-story, 2.5 large, 3rd-story, half-attic spaces, buildings that are along that. So the mass in the context for the design is not out of place with another structure. So this is a proposed site plan. It's a little confusing to read because it also shows the existing floor plan or floor plate of cargo. So we are proposing that there'll be 6 parking spaces that are dedicated to the residential units. So residential unit will get 2 parking spaces. They're an open air parking, but it's under the 3rd floor. So they would pull up on the 3rd floor. I'll show you in during elevation. Our footprint is smaller than the current cargo footprint. Done this purposefully for to reduce the mass, but also to make parking work. It's one of the reasons that we ask for a variance today, because you're only allowed 2/3 for the half story of the floor plate below, because we have a truncated smaller floor plate to accommodate parking, and to be the larger 3rd floor. Otherwise, you'll see a section have like a studio, 1 bedroom function. Or so our new plan, we are proposing to pull the building forward so that, as Adam was explaining, working with town officials and hearing from the public, that we did not want to break up that pedestrian tail realm. So pull the building forward. We are required to have a 5-yard setback per zoning, but the building's already non-conforming. And we've continued that front facade at the grade level, and I'll show you the elevation here. So this is, we're looking down again at that site plan. You have some undulation as front elevation works up Union Street. So there's a little bit of relief. It won't be sitting as tight as cargo building does currently. To actually give more of a friendly pedestrian feel as you walk. You won't be like right up in the building. The rendering elevation. Yeah, and then the far right front corner where it says roof terrace, that's actually commercial space. So it's a 1-story commercial space. I'll show you in the elevation. We've also designed the building to make the entry and exit for driveway safer. Currently, as you come down the drive, visibility to the left, not to pull out on the sidewalk. So we've canted the building so that it actually opens up for that left visibility. And we've also increased the width of that drive from 10, right now 10 feet. We're increasing 12 section wider, safer. So this is the street level, first floor. So you can see, here, we have the commercial space that's on the right-hand side, which has the shared party wall with Gladstone. And then you can see that the first floor is broken up 3 units. We're leaving this as more of a flex space, so that could potentially serve as residential or commercial. Talk more about presentation. And then you can also see how that elevation undulates as it's working its way down to the access drive. That's far left. So this is moving up to the second floor, which is really the first floor living space for the residential units. And you can see how the floor plate has been condensed so that we can fit the parking and have adequate turning radiuses so you get in and out of the parking spaces. Then the commercial space is 1 story. So here up at the second floor, the roof terrace for unit number 3. Right there. And then this is the 3rd floor. So here, this is why we're asking for a variance so that we can get adequate sized bedrooms up on the 3rd floor for the 1, 2, 3. I do have the square footages of each gross floor building on the right chart. I do have 2 charts, one showing if all 3 floors were built out for residential or if only built out 2 floors for residential and had the first floor for commercial or one. This elevation here is looking at our immediate abutters and the height context to our abutters. So we are allowed 35 feet from the average grade. We're actually only 31 feet from the average grade. So we purposely, in working with our abutters, lowered the roof, not max it out, so that we did not feel out of context with the streetscape. So you can see Union on the left, their roof higher than what we're proposing here. That elevation at 62.6 and we're at 59. So that's our datum point. So by right, we could go up another 4 feet, but the massing. And here you can also see that the design at ground level was intentionally made to look like retail storefronts with that pedestrian retail elevation. So then up to the second floor, it has double hung windows, more of a residential feel in that use design. This is looking at the landscape plan, and the landscape plan's minimal. We do have a small landscape area on the parking area, also be used for snow plowing and piling up snow during the winter months. There is some landscape down at Union Street where we have break in the facade, so you will get additional elements there at various shrub, trees. All that there. We also did a photometric study to look at the light impacts. So here, it's very hard to see at this scale, but this is looking at lumen levels around the building based on the proposed lights that specified. And you can see that everything's dark sky and also at 0 cutoff when you get property line, so there's no light spilling over our property and butters properties. So we work carefully with our lighting consultant to ensure that we're not lighting up the other properties around us. So this section here of the building really illustrates why we need to go for the variance. You can see that the first floor at the street level is where we have that flex space, and you move up to the second floor where we have the first living area for the units. And then you move up to the 3rd floor. Well, if we were only allowed to be 2/3 of the floor below, really only have a small little bedroom up on that half story. So really need to expand that half story to the full floor, floors. But what I
That was fun.
Gary, can you just tell me?
You'll have to let them know that this
I will.
Sue. So
Super. I'll let everyone know, don't worry. I'll let the select board know.
I'm all over that.
Should be muted. Thank you.
Don't go too far.
oh yeah, so I was just explaining that we need the full third floors that we have that size bedroom for that are marketable. See the slope actually creates so that when you're back of the building and you look at that elevation, it really only looks like a 1.5 story 5 feet from that parking area line. So it's really when you're on the street side that elevation designed in a way using mansard roof, so that third floor really does look like a level dormers. So trying to purposely use the architecture down. Like I said, worked pretty good. Previous design, which I have here, that we show, but it works exactly the same. This is the front elevation from Union Street. See here that that small bill, I call them in the bill. Originally, that was built from the time we had that was courtyard. We're looking at it. 36 Union. Now we fill that area with full space. Put a generic name on it. And that question come up sometimes. So that will be the commercial space, and again, you can see that street elevation is designed to that storefront look all the way through first floor and switching residential double hung architecture type, and we used check bays to really break down the scale, give a lot of life to that elevation, bring in a lot of the historical elements, and providing outdoor space for the residential unit. So on the third floor, there are balconies off the primary bedrooms that allows outside. We also have small covered porches, second floor off living rooms. So all the units get, because there's not a lot of outdoor space in the back parking area, everyone access to outdoor space. The west elevation, so this is cut through the access drives going up back parking. Done our best to minimize those corporate sizes on this elevation of privacy. We've also added wood screen block parking cars that are parked at work. Here's the rear elevation. So as you can, it really looks like a 1.5 story building. But, yeah. This is the elevation, so this is cutting through commercial spaces on the first floor. So here you can see the outdoor terrace, open air parking where I have one person standing. And this is some of the materials that we work with the Historic Commission. So just calling out different materials that we can construction, brick veneer, which ties in the surrounding buildings, with dark asphalt shingle roof, a lot of ornamentation on the bays, that brackets that round soffit, all that. And here is a perspective down toward central, see how it ties in Gladstone, vegetation, space, bring that forefront down floor elevation, residential level with projected bays, all the ornamentation design. Higher.
Thank you. Mr. Zager?
Sure. So the standards that apply to the special permit, and the board is aware, is that the change in use and the new structure must not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. And our zoning bylaw in section 12.5.2 offers a set of performance criteria that need to be analyzed by the board. And so what I was going to do is just run through those one by one, because we believe that the design meets or exceeds all of these criteria. The first is lighting. As Chris mentioned, lighting plan is dark sky compliant. All the lighting is what was approved by Historic District Commission. The plan is to have motion sensing lights in the rear. Not having lights always be on, disturb the neighbors, as Chris pointed out. The intention with the lighting plan is so that there won't be any light reflected onto the property. So we think that when the board analyzes lighting criteria, that this development easily satisfies the standard of not being more detrimental. Second is category is noise. The project is modest. It is a small project, 3 units. We don't think that there is any reasonable basis to 3-unit building is going to be of any detrimental effect on the neighborhood. We have several buildings within several hundred yards, 6 units, 10 plus units. There's other residential across the street. Insulation is going to be installed code. We're not going to have any exterior speakers or like that. So we think that from a noise standpoint, that we also satisfy the standard of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. The next is topographical standards and site clearing. We again feel that this plan more than satisfies the standard. As the board is aware, and we mentioned at the outset, the developer has abandoned the initial plan that would push the building back and require into the ledge to create a courtyard, parking, and a driveway in the front. So this design really minimizes any site work that's going to be done. There'll have to be some ledge removal, but it's very minimal compared to what would have been done on the site if we had stuck with the original plan. The site's also generally fully developed. Building that right now, I believe it covers over 60% of the lot. So it's not a site that will involve extensive clearing or anything like that. And actually, the overall building coverage, you'll refer to our application. The current condition on the lot, the building presently takes up 60.3% of the lot area. This is a pre-existing non-conforming condition. We're not going to be able to get it down to the conforming 40%, but we're reducing the building coverage from 60% to 54.4%. So that's almost a 10% reduction in building coverage. And then also importantly, presently, we're non-conforming status for total structures and impervious surface, 71.5%. The town requirement by the zoning bylaw is 70%. We're going to be using Keystone on the driveway portion, not the driveway coming up, but on the rear portion of the driveway. And so we're going to reduce that to a compliant condition where there'll only be 65.5% covered by impervious in building. So in that way, we are substantially improving the existing site condition. There's not going to be any effect on habitat. The existing street facade is going to be left intact. So with respect to the topographical standards and site clearing, I feel we are well exceeding the standard of protection neighborhood. Next is site development standards. This is it's a bit of a similar criteria to the topographical standards and clearing. But as we noted, the building is being moved forward to align with the streetscape, which we think is what the town is seeking in this location and what's appropriate downtown and having mixed use residential and creating a lively, appropriate downtown area. So in that criteria, we also feel we meet the standard. The next standard is pedestrian and vehicular access. As Chris mentioned, we are improving the condition. Driveway that's currently 10 feet being expanded by 20% to 12 feet, and the cutback in the building at the front corner by the driveway is going to really solve the visibility problem with cars pulling down that driveway and pulling out. You'll have a few of cars coming from the left side. So we think the new design is going to substantially enhance safety. We're adding 6 off-street parking spaces, so each unit will have parking. The grade of the driveway is going to remain just about the same, but there'll be some slight leveling to improve it, so there won't be any kind of bump that's there now. And with 6 off-street parking spots, I think it's very unlikely that residents are going to take up spots on the street. So we think that there's a real benefit to the town. Next category, aesthetics. The location and size of the building, we think are highly appropriate. There are other buildings, including the building next door, that are actually higher. The proposal here is 4 feet lower than what zoning actually requires. We worked extensively with the historic. There were 3 meetings to go over design details. So all of these design details that were approved by historic are being incorporated into the design. So we feel that the aesthetic is really going to add a lot to downtown. The existing building, obviously, state of decay, really needs to be placed if possible. It shouldn't, building in that condition shouldn't be a prominent location right at the center of town. We're eager to change that. And so there are other, we think from an aesthetic standpoint, again, to satisfy that standard. The next criteria is landscaping, walls, and fences. There's minimal landscaping on the site, nature of the site being in a downtown area, but I think as you saw, Chris's plan has some nice green spaces around the building that don't exist there today. Right now, it's just a big facade, and that little bit of green, those steps there, and those details that he's worked so hard on it, they're going to enhance that area and provide a better condition than what exists today. So again, that's an example of easily meeting the criteria of not being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Next criteria is utilities, security, emergency systems. This is an easy project. All the connections are available. Septic system is being created. This building is also going to be fully sprinkled, which is a new standard. I don't think a lot of the residential buildings in town meet that. And so this obviously arguably doesn't. So we'll have a much safer up-code building. There'll also be a full alarm system. So we're easily meeting the standard under utilities and emergency systems. The next criteria is fiscal impact. Obviously, there'll be a very significant increase in the real estate tax revenue generated by this project when it's completed. We don't know exactly, but maybe a 4- or 5-fold increase. This plan also is totally in line with the housing diversity concepts that are embodied in the town's master plan. So adding these is going to certainly bring out big favor of fiscal impact. So we think from a fiscal impact standard, again, easily meeting the standard of not being substantially more technical neighborhood than the existing social, economic, or community needs served by the proposal. Again, another building right now, even though it's retail building, it's too large, and it's a site that it just hasn't had success. It doesn't have parking directly in front. It really just doesn't work. Retail building. It's a new concept. We're going to have some guaranteed retail, potentially more, and it's also going to have 3 residential units, which the town sorely needs. Having diverse, I mean, we're a town dominated by single-family residents, so having these townhouse apartments type units available adds to our diversity in our housing stock here in town, and that is certainly important to achieve by this project. Next, traffic flow and safety. That's similar to what's mentioned before. Criteria sort of themselves, but again, wider driveway, the building being cut back for visibility, actually providing more parking than for the residential units than is required by the bylaw. The bylaw would require 5. We're actually providing 6. So each unit can have 2 spaces, which should help people off the streets as much as possible. If we need to, depending upon the commercial, we obviously work forward if they're going to be loading hours like that. Businesses will not have access to parking here. We felt it was important to sort of keep commercial at the front. The commercial units are a story lower, so it really wouldn't make sense to have any kind of deliveries rear. Didn't want to deliveries disrupt the resident neighbors. But obviously, talk about loading hours like that. There's been another case that can be managed. I can skip over the utilities because that repeats itself again. Moving on to some of the other criteria, neighborhood character and structures, that's similar. We already talked about that. We meet the standard. Criteria 6, preservation, enhancement, or creation of existing and proposed scenic view sheds going to the general public. And again, we're getting rid of a serious eyesore in a prominent location that shouldn't go black mark in our town have there. So we're looking to get that out of the way, bringing a new building in, the lower height that's allowed, wider driveway. So again, we think we're enhancing, easily meet that criteria. Impacts on the natural environment. Next criteria, there's no adverse impact on the natural environment through this project. It's already in a fully developed downtown area. Next criteria, climate resiliency and adaptation. Again, this is one where we substantially exceed what's there. The proposed building is replacing a deteriorating and energy inefficient structure. This new building is going to meet the direct energy code, going to feature Energy Star appliances, electric vehicle charging, dedicated circuit for photovoltaic systems, spray foam insulation, high performance LED lighting, high performing windows and doors, low flow plumbing fixtures. It's better for the climate in every way. So it's standard. And the last criteria is also potential fiscal impact. Another, as we talked about before, to satisfy that factor of new and benefits. Having new residents in town, that's new customers, local businesses. Every little one counts, and it also creates a vibrancy. People living downtown, when you're walking downtown, it's nice to see that they're living there, they're enjoying themselves. So we think we easily meet the impact requirement. That would cover the requested special permits. There is also a second. The variance has an entirely different legal analysis. And unless the board has any questions, we can run through that now and we can close later. Sure. So in order to obtain a variance, we need to show 3 things. Number 1 is that there are unique circumstances related to soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land or structures, especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting the zoning district generally. Number 1. Number 2, because of those unique circumstances, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the applicant. Then the third item that we have to show is that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. We feel that we meet all of these criteria, and this is an amazing case for a variance. And the primary reason what's unique about this lot that doesn't affect the district generally, as Chris mentioned, is the slope and the ledge. So you don't have a site to build a traditional home on that has a third floor with a gabled roof that would satisfy the 2/3 requirement. It's really almost impossible. I mean, we don't want to show the cross section again because that is what really demonstrates it. You can call that up on the screen. There. So as everyone can see, the first floor, the second floor is smaller than the first. And if you were to have a third floor, that would be 2/3 of the size of the second. The largest one for all three of the units would be just over 500 square feet, which is probably enough to have a primary suite of that, but it really wouldn't justify the economic investment to have a third floor. So hence the need to have the third floor larger than the second. The real reason for that is parking. If we located the parking located to the rear, it literally eats up all that usable space on the second floor and creates a condition where the third floor necessarily has to be larger. That's the topography we're dealing with. And if everyone recalls, or if those who were participating recall, the real main reason why it has to be this way is because we have voluntarily elected to keep the parking in the rear. When we first presented the plan back in May, Chris, do you have the original? You can show the plan. This was the original plan that was proposed, the initial design. The initial design contemplated that you would pull in off the street, turn into a courtyard. There were 2 garages for each unit that you would pull directly into. You'd be able to pull out, turn in, drive to the zoo. We thought it was a creative way to address the issues with the site. No one agreed. So rather than proceed with this plan, we changed course, moved the building forward, and had parking in the back. But to do that, it means that that second floor, as we've shown, it's small. You can't realistically have a third floor that would meet the 2/3 requirement. This is on this side. We'll show you. This is what the garages would have been. So a plan like this could potentially be done as of right, but it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. And the applicant doesn't want it. We'd much prefer to go forward this plan that's received much more favorable input from both historic members of the public, members of the planning board that we've met with, literally everyone. And so we think it would be highly inequitable for us to now be punished, even though we've got a building that is less than the height requirement by over 10%, to not really be able to resolve this sort of anomaly that, because of the slope, we just can't have a traditional third floor that meets that 2/3 requirement. There's also some other unique conditions that relate to this lot that we're dealing with that give rise to the hardship. We've got a wartime store block building that these were designed to be shopping centers in their day at a time when people walk to the store. That doesn't happen anymore. Everybody wants to drive, pull up, run in, buy something, go to their car, drive away. So it's very challenging to have commercial see at a site like that. You need businesses that either people stop in when they're strolling around town, or businesses that they sit down and they stay a while. So you really have a limited set of businesses that you can bring in. And it's compounded by the fact that this property, unlike many others in the commercial district, there's no parking spaces directly in front, which if you listen to business owners, I mean, that's their key. I mean, not having any parking right in front, combined with an obsolete wartime store block building is really difficult. And that's another unique factor I want the board to consider, understanding that we do have unique conditions that this property don't affect generally. So because of all these factors, we believe that a literal enforcement of the bylaw would absolutely involve a substantial hardship. That, like I mentioned, traditional 2.5-story building doesn't work on this slope. Like I said, we would be reducing that top floor level. Some of these units would have 500 square feet or so or less, and it would not be economically feasible to build those. And we'd also be in a situation that if the first floor were commercial and we could only have that 2/3, these would essentially be, 1-bedroom duplex. And that just financially would not work. That would not be feasible for any developer to take. So we believe that this situation with all of these factors really creates a hardship that justifies allowing that variance dimensional requirement to the 1/2-story. Again, 31.2 feet, so we're almost 4 feet lower than what would be allowed, and forcing us to not to build the other way would really be going against the wishes of just everybody who's looking at this project. That moves us really to the third prong, is that desirable relief has to be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and without nullifying or substantially derogating the bylaw, intent or purpose of the bylaw. And here again, the reasons are in many ways similar to the analysis of the special permit, where we've talked about it not being substantially detrimental, which we feel very strongly that satisfy those requirements. But here the analysis is a little bit different, because you have to look at the purposes of and the intent of the bylaw. Obviously, the purpose of having a 35-foot height limitation is you don't want things to be higher than 35 feet. We're there. We're not asking to go any higher than the town allows. We're just trying to deal with this anomaly that we have because of the nature of the building and the slope and the ledge, where the parking has to go to be appropriate for what the town wants. That overall height is more than 10% less than what we could do if we had to do it as a bright project. So we think that granting the variance is entirely consistent and is not going to derogate in any way from the purpose of the bylaw here. Additionally, we've used a mansard roof to minimize the undue massing at the third level and really make it feel like it would look almost, I think to many of us it would look almost identical from the street anyway, to what it would look like if there was only a 1/2-story on the top floor. So from that perspective, I think that granting this variance is not going to do any harm to the public or derogate from the purpose of the bylaw. You can also see that the abutting building at Union Street is higher. The building several doors down in the other direction is also higher. So of the 5 buildings, adjoining, all lined up in a row, will actually be the third high. I don't think it's taking away the bylaw relief that we're requesting. Now, I could take a little bit more time and go through. If you look at the purposes in section 1.1 of the zoning bylaw, it lists all of the purposes that zoning is designed to serve. Encouraging the most appropriate use of land and water within the town. We think that this proposal is the appropriate. We think that that's part of the reason why we're here and why we're going to be at in front of the planning board asking for 3 units instead of 2. We think that this is a much more appropriate use than what can potentially be done as of right. So granting us the variance is certainly not going to abrogate that purpose. Next purpose is preventing overcrowding of land. We don't think that this is in any way going to be notified or derogated by granting this variance. There are certain cases where applicants will seek to sort of max out the size of their lot and say, oh, I need a variance, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. As board knows, special permit would be available potentially for residential. We're only asking for 3, 1 more that's allowed. So this is not a situation where the developer is looking to max out the lot, saying, I need a variance to do it. It's absolutely the opposite of that. We're asking for 1 more unit that would be allowed as of right. So we don't think that purpose is going to be undercut by granting variance. The next one, preventing undue concentration of population on one hand and preventing excessive scattering of population on the other. Variance, this really has nothing to do with height. But again, this project is adding a very modest number of units downtown, all with adequate street parking. And we think it's a model example of a small mixed project that's going to enhance vitality in the downtown area. Next purpose of zoning is this section 1.1 is encouraging various lot sizes and housing types for persons of various age and income level. Absolutely served by granting of this variance. The project is going to add 3 new residents in town. They're not single-family residents. Our housing stock is dominated by single-family. So adding units that are not single-family dwellings is absolutely part of the master plan. It's a purpose of zoning, and we think it's going to be served by this proposal. One of the things that we think especially will be served by this proposal, the first floor has the potential to be retail or commercial use. And if we can achieve that, and we hope that market forces will allow that to happen, then these residential units become even smaller. Smaller means potentially more affordable. They're a market rate, not affordable housing. Make no mistake, the project is not about affordable housing. But if we can reduce the size of those units by having retail on the first floor, that will certainly serve this purpose of zoning. We encourage various lot sizes and housing types for different income level. Minimizing traffic hazards and congestion. Again, we don't feel that that has any relation to the variance, so that granting the variance is not going to nullify that anyway. We understand there are concerns of any downtown development, and we understand that folks have expressed concern about the driveway. It's a little unusual, but that's why we've taken care to cut back the building, increase the width. And we're also more than happy to work with any conditions that the fire department, police department might want to impose or talk to us about. We're absolutely committed to a safe project. We're not going to allow any playing in the driveway area or anything like that. It's solely for driveway purposes. So we're not. We don't see any reason why the granting the variance would take away from that purpose. Next purpose that this zoning is providing adequate light, air, and sanitation. Again, we don't think that granting this variance have any way an adverse effect on this zoning purpose. Building, as we mentioned, is 10%, more than 10% lower would be. We're built as of right, so we've really taken steps to not push the envelope. Do a project that's going to be friendly for our neighbors, friendly for the town. Even though we are asking for a technical variance, size of that third story, this isn't a case where the applicant is pushing the envelope, trying to go above the maximum height that, or even approach it. Carefully work to modify our plans based upon town and neighbor input. So we don't see that granting this variance is going to take away from that purpose of zoning. Reducing hazards from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers. I don't think that granting the variance has any real relation to that or is going to cause any harm to that zoning purpose. Preventing blight, pollution of the environment, same thing. I don't think that's going to be nullified or derogated from in any way. Next purpose, maintaining, enhancing the natural and historical amenities of Manchester by the Sea. On the contrary, granting this variance is going to enhance that. It's going to avoid a situation where we might have more ledge removal than we might otherwise want. And we're going to build a building that the Historic District Commission is going to be proud to approve, hopefully, when they revise the sign. It's similar to what they approved before. And a building that hopefully every resident in town is proud of. It's a prominent site right downtown. It shouldn't look the way that it looks right now. And we want to build a beautiful building that everybody can love. It's not going to be large. It's not going to be our neighbors. That's flexible and last for 75 years or longer. Next purpose of zoning, conserving the value of land and building. This one absolutely will be served by granting variance. We want to replace the decaying structure with something in this that just can't not track property values next door. Next purpose of zoning, promoting the development of a sustainable coastal community and encourage climate resilience. We've already been through that. Building is light years ahead of what's there now. Granting the site area has no adverse impact on zoning. And then the last thing is implementing the recommendations of the town master. Again, absolutely served by this variance. Variance is a result of 3 non-single family housing units. It goes right to the, I quoted from the master plan. Diverse housing scaled to fit well into the town's varied neighborhoods, to attract and retain diverse businesses in town, and encouraging housing of size, styles, and prices appropriate to downsized housing. Just at our meeting last night, we had multiple potential downsizers inquiring about apartments already. We think that this is a home run. We think that the variance is fair, asking for the world to be kept building within the height that's required by the town. We just need to address this anomaly where, because of the slope and the topography, just can't get a 3rd floor that's less than 30 size.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I know it's a little long-winded, but we wanted to cover all the factors. We need to do it. So,
Are there any questions from the board regarding this?
I have a question.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I agree that cargo building is a disgrace. So I appreciate you taking on the challenge to do something with that site. I think the design's really nice. I appreciate the roof line, scale off the street. So really nice design. I had a question about like the commercial floor space. The plan indicates about 3,200 square feet. So the way I see it, there's the 3 units, and then there's the space on the far right. That includes all 4 spaces combined, roughly. And then I understand you want some flexibility with 3 units. So, one scenario could be you could lease out the entire floor space if you need to, right? There's no like firewalls or there's some flexibility to have like 4 separate distinct units or 1 complete, storefront if you found that right tenant, down the line. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would design it require 2-hour separation.
Like just for me personally as a resident and board member, I think I'm fine with just that 1 commercial unit to the far right and then the rest being just residential. I mean, retail, as we all know, doesn't necessarily thrive in this town, especially when you don't have parking. I think the parking is a serious challenge in that area in particular. It's pretty quiet, just pedestrian traffic. Also, have you guys thought about just, staging during construction? The site's challenging, just in terms of just like, contractors coming on and off site and then, stored materials, just things to think about as you get on that path.
Yeah, we've already met with the department about the demolition process. Details. So we've already sort of worked that construction. Once we
And Adam, I don't think you mentioned this, but the fire chief has signed off on a safety, correct?
We met with fire chief, plan by fire hydrant up on that. That was
all I have. Thank you.
Jojo?
Yeah, I do have and your questions help my questions, so that eliminated some. I just want the presentation, so when you guys went to historic district, the plan that you presented to historic, did it require a variance at that time? So it was based on the feedback you got from abutters, and that meeting resulted in changing the facade and switching the parking, which resulted in you now needing a variance because of that design that accommodated. And I know the variance is also needed because of topography for the site and blasting.
All right, the first, I'm not sure that the first plan ever got stored. Because
Okay.
well, we submitted it, and then we a lot of
Feedback,
Feedback,
pushback, didn't
yeah.
like the design. Okay.
so we ended up recent new design. Our thing is 2 units, so requirements for the parking are much less.
Yep.
Just this design here. So you can see that this was that courtyard I was talking about on our original middle. So there was a break because we're required to have foot setback, side yard, or 5 foot on the front. We had to push the building back 5 feet and setback all around the building. So that ended up basically creating a separation. 30. That was
and this only had 2 units, so this only had 2 parking spaces. There were going to be 2 parking spaces in the driveway and back, and then 2 parking spaces for the building. And because there were only 2 as opposed to 6, this plan, 3rd floor, could be designed to meet that 3rd requirement.
Was it designed that way?
This building,
Yeah, that
this
was-
picture here would not need any zoning relief
Okay.
whatsoever.
So that was kind of my question. But based on feedback you received
Right.
at the public hearings for the Historic District Commission and maybe from the Historic Board.
Well, the first big change was after we submitted one plan, I think informally to historic, and then we had a meeting with some of the members of the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Downtown Improvement Committee, Select Board, and the universal opinion was get rid of that courtyard.
Okay, and that
Right.
design.
So we immediately changed that
Yep.
to go to the 2-family plan that was as of right with only 2 parking spaces. And this went to historic, and it's an as of right plan. At the historic meetings, those were, as like mentioned at the outset, there were 2 major criticisms. Everybody said, we want retail. Nobody was happy with losing retail. That was probably the biggest theme of the night. And then the second theme, and this was the reason why we had one historic commission member dissenting, was they didn't want that facade broken. They felt the downtown streetscape should maintain that. It should be lively. And so even though we got historic approval, we sat down and we took those comments to heart, and that's the result in the plan here tonight that guarantees at least 1 retail space with potential for more, and it also addresses that comment about breaking the facade. We think if we go back to historic with this, instead of 5-1, it's going to be 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this had a garage space, so that 4th part manage where current they don't have the geometry.
That helped to clarify. I just wanted to understand what was originally proposed, how it kind of changed, and now why they're asking for the variance relief. That helped.
Yeah, you can see from this here, the exterior. Tree elevation.
Rob? What? No?
I said I'll pass.
Okay. One of my questions is, today, what is the height of the existing building at the street?
So it's 39. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Sea level's 23, right?
Yep.
18 feet.
Current height is 18.
Yeah, so from the drive entry, we're at grade elevation 22, the roof is at 30.
Dublin. Dublin height.
Oh,
About double. Right, yeah, because the
From
proposed plan-
existing
the proposed
to
plan is
proposed.
36,
oh,
right?
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
yeah.
I don't quite understand the plan for the first floor. I don't understand. You've given us something with a lot of what if, maybe. We usually get definite stuff. And so, for instance, you're saying the stair may be deleted if the space is used for commercial use. So if you deleted the stairs, you would have no access to the residential units from the street?
No, it would be from the rear. Right, correct,
From the street.
Union Street, correct.
And I believe the letter from the fire chief was relying on the fact that he would have access to the residential units from the street for ambulance purposes.
We never see the letter.
Okay. And would you have a second egress from the unit if you didn't have the access from the street?
Create one through to the
Well,
here.
you would have, yeah, about one second or primary.
So you would meet the building code. Am I right, Rob?
No pressure. Did they meet the whole code?
On my annual piece of bronchitis. Yeah, as long as it's sprinkled, I think that they can get away with one meter.
Have an area.
Two of them.
An area of rest.
You need an area that someone can go to that by.
You're talking like the fire rated stairwell?
Well, yeah, this
So you go out on the porch and wait for the ladder to come get you.
was the same if you're stuck in one building.
20 by 20.
The only problem I have for fire chief's letter, he just has that. What he's got.
Right.
That's what he's judging his off. Now you're giving him something different. What his plans now, where this idea is now changed.
We're happy to discuss that.
Yeah,
with
well,
the fire chief.
Right, but I mean, aside from the fire chief, we typically grant the variance with a special permit based on what we see, not what it might be specific.
Well, we usually have definitive plans.
Well, yeah, that's my point. It's
Yeah.
very specific, and this seems like it could be one thing, but it could
Right.
be something else. So that's kind of where I'm getting hung up a little bit.
I disagree though, because it's just talking about the use of the floor space, not changing the structure at all. It could be 3 years until this thing's actually complete. Who knows what the market's gonna look like? We could be in the middle of a recession. There's no way you're gonna be able to find a tenant to take on 3,200 square feet with no parking in a recession. So I appreciate that there's actually some flexibility in what we're seeing here. You know, it could be residential, it could be commercial, it could be 4 units, it could be 1 large unit. So
I
it's very
think,
common to do that.
but the reason I have a concern, John, is because of the drive and the limited access to the rear.
But the commercial people won't have access to the rear.
And the residents won't have access to the front if they do the flex.
They'll have access to the rear. That's their entrance to their home.
Yeah, you have to
So-
come down the driveway in order to get to the street. Or,
And my question is, whatever's inside of that bottom unit, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4 commercial units, how does that affect the person accessing the rear that lives there?
And they have
In
to
my
look-
mind, I don't see something, but that could be, you could see completely different, or the ambulance, or,
The walkway way in and out of the place now would be the driveway.
It sounds like though the town wanted this flexibility.
but it's not the town to control what the ZBA does.
It just sounds like there's a series of meetings that went on without,
No, it wasn't.
without our involvement. So
sorry, I just have my final comment is just,
Yeah.
is the way I'm looking at it is I'm voting on the height, the variance, the special permit, and the 3 residential units. Well, and I take it back, I guess you guys are asking for 1 commercial unit.
Well, it could be broken up into different spaces.
Okay, so now that's where
It's different.
yeah, it's a little different, but
Right, yeah.
We're asked, we believe that this is a building right downtown. Residential use is allowed as of right, commercial uses are allowed as of right. We think it would be unrealistic to think, and this is a building being designed to last for generations. And we think it's unrealistic to think that there's not going to be some change in the uses. We've at 21 Union Street across the street, we've occasionally had a real estate office. The yellow building at the end, Zach was going in and out for Beach at times. They've had residential and retail. So we think this is really consistent with zoning district. And we do believe that the board do have authority to grant a special permit that would allow for that flexibility. Don't think it's beyond your power to grant a
I
special
mean,
permit.
I think if we're approving a change of use, we need to know what the change of use is, and not that it's going to change over time from the change of use.
Well, it's residential use.
I think at this point, we have a fair number of people on Zoom, we have people in the room. I would like to get public comments in tonight. I am going to I'm not going to go past 10 o'clock tonight.
Thank you.
And so I would ask people to speak only once and to say what you have to say once, and try not to be too repetitive. You certainly can say I agree with so-and-so or I disagree, but to give the same argument will put us to sleep. So with that, I will take public comment from people in the room first. Raise your hand if Mr. Brook. Please state your name and address.
Yes, Remco Brucker, 87 Summer Street. Now, this is a very challenging site. And I think everybody probably has a lot of different comments, criticisms, concerns, or like. One thing that I think is a really nice development is that we're maintaining the street facade of this project. I think it's vital now that we maintain that, otherwise we're going to lose the sense downtown, the sense of any sort of centering and commercial sense to the town. Whether that's 1 commercial unit or doesn't matter. And so I think from that point of view, that's a positive development. Also, I think that it really should be seen as an urban building. So even the fire concerns, you should really look at this building as being in Salem or Boston, or that's a very similar site. Tight conditions. I think that even if there's an entrance only on the rear of the building, I think that emergency people can easily get to that spot. So I think that's the way we should do this.
Anybody else want to say? Yes, please state your name and address.
Andy Rogers, 82 Oldest Road. Two items I am concerned about. That driveway, I live on a hill, that's curved. And so with the amount of traffic going in and out for the residents, I don't know what can be done that you can make that drive flatter or something, because even with that visibility, the ability to stop ice, that's just such a treacherous corner. So I don't know what you can do to the type of pavement that's there, something, but that whole turning radius coming down, that's something to consider for safety. Second was what Sarah just mentioned. I don't know how you can have another egress if you cut off the bottom to commercial, which I think the town and other people do want, with the middle unit, now that you're 3 units versus 2 units. If you were 2 units, you could potentially have some second egress on the side somehow with that third unit that isolated in between the 2 walls. I don't know how you're going to do that. So I think having a plan is important. The other is, I have a question regarding how far out the bays go. Are the bay, it looks like they might overhang where people walk. So getting a good idea of what that is, where the water and snow and other thing might be cascading where people are walking. Stuff. It just, the idea of having the streetscape have a continuous line, they seem to jut out a lot. And so it might be better to flatten that out. Just make it less bulky regarding the whole building, and that might then go better for that upper variant. That
Would you like to answer the question of do the bays extend over the sidewalk?
how close are they to the sidewalk?
It varies. Close to 30. Yeah. Open up for drive.
So it's just 2 inches.
Measure it, but
I think there needs to, that should, my opinion, should push back. Then you're going to get potential snow and ice and rain cascading over. So thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Britta Magnuson, 39 Union Street. I just had a question about the difference of what was seen by the Historical Commission and now. It looks like it's substantially got bigger. It's 3 units instead of 2. I'm curious what they saw for height then versus what you have for height now. I understand you were adding commercial, but you added that commercial to the right side, and with doing that, your other plan, like, you achieve the goals they were thinking. So I'm just curious kind of what they saw, what they were.
yeah, so the actual front elevation, large before, now it's broken down. Smaller. Pull the whole building forward. Okay. Have 5 foot front setback. And our hospital built forward. In that is a
So you're saying the height is exactly the same?
yes. I mean,
The streetscape, you look a lot.
yeah, I mean, our original submittal, we were at 35. Butters brought this down as we're actually higher than,
Yeah, but the 35, was there a setback here
just at the courtyard in
at
front.
the top? Was there?
Yes.
But,
For the
but
base
this
for
we
each
have,
other.
but here the roof lines, where it was all setback.
I mean, we're really dealing with the plans that we have before us.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
what
Well, I'm
the
just wondering-
Historic District Commission did.
Does it go back to the historic
Yes.
commission? So I'm just curious.
This is a different plan.
So I don't know like how these things
Yeah,
go.
it's a different plan, so it has to go back to the Historic District Commission.
What if they don't like?
Go in circles.
Okay. It just,
Yeah.
that seems like
Exactly.
it looks substantially different to me, like that not having that setback on the top. That it concerns how that will look beside increasing like by what 8 feet.
Anyone else in the room? Mr.
Mark Weld, 15 School Street, also known as Town Hill. I am conflicted because I have been talking with Chris for quite a while about this. Those of you that don't know, I am up behind Cargo, so obviously I have interest more so aesthetically, view-wise than anything else. I'm not really worried. But I have also listened to a very enthusiastic presentation by Mr. Sager that I disagree with much on many factual points, many opinions. And those things all kind of resolve around the important part for me now is I think the aesthetic is good. They've done a great design job. I think when people tell you, well, we may make the whole thing retail, well, take a look at your zoning bylaw. You'll see that you then need 12 parking spaces according to the bylaw. Now, waive them or not, I don't know. That's change in use. And as whether you've got enough spaces now, you have the number of spaces you're supposed to have because you have 5 for 3 residential units and 1 for a retail unit. That totals 6. So there's a number of things like that. I disagree with the factual part of the presentation. Okay. The issue that a number of my neighbors have brought to me, and there have been many of them, is with the Historic District Committee, they are focused on what you see from the street, the legacy look of the town. What happens behind the building? Not so much, right? That's where the action is. Now, Mr. Zager outlined nobody was in favor of the original drawing. I thought it was awesome. Because what it did very creatively was provided a space for 4 cars in a 2-family development, which again, I disagree. I don't believe there is anything as of right. This is an pre-existing non-conforming use, and it requires approval of the zoning board of appeals. Anyway, just as my house does, just as many of your homes. So I think that what that initial plan did very cleverly was made it so you did not have to go up and down that driveway that you just referenced, which is 10 feet wide currently and is very steep. And my neighbor Toby and I know that because we live on one that's 10 feet wide that's about 250 feet long. So, but it is not closed at the bottom or in the middle, and you can always see what's happening around. So my concern again is, while the representation is that the driveway will be widened by 2 feet or 20%, as you've indicated, the fact is the density is increasing by 400. And again, not in my own personal interest, but just in the bigger interest, which I feel compelled to speak about. It's dangerous. And I would suggest this board in any event would suggest there would be a traffic study required by a qualified firm that could tell you, yeah, you've got 6 parking spaces back there, but I can tell you that the interface of the current property line, and I did own that house at 18 Union Street once, so I'm very familiar with lines there. And the interface between how you get in and out of those parking spaces, let alone there's a column between every parking space. Okay, so when you back out, you have to make sure that you don't worry about the column, or your bedroom will be part of the second floor. Okay, so I think there's a lot of these kind of things, public safety wise. Okay, and I did hear the fire department's concerns. The fire department, Gary, you know, on the finance committee, when we all talk about ladder trucks, this is why we have ladder trucks. I get that. But not if people can't walk out the front. That's a detail. Okay, but I think that I would be in favor of the two-family, even if they said we're going to park the cars out and back. A lot less parking, two-family building is fine. The small commercial unit I think is fine as well. Other neighbor next door, right behind me, Dan Weaver, whose Gladstone building is, I'm sure he'll have a feeling on that as well. But again, I think it needs to be redeveloped. I'm not somebody, and you've seen this place for 70 years, go in and out. And by the way, during that period of time at 21 Union, there has always been a commercial spot there. Dr. Herrick, everybody, their physicians always, so there's always been commercial in that home that you're in now. On the other hand, other than Mr. Morse's building, there is no other building along what I call, and the chief of police calls 127 in that main area downtown, that accesses a residential development from the street. It's all off-street parking. And there's a reason for that. And that is because that's 127, the state highway. It's lots of traffic. And so I think the public safety issue, above all, and I'd love to have like a little debate about, the other factual things, but that's an issue. And let alone, you got three-family homes, right? They're going to be all people like me that are, okay, I can't stand being in a big house. And, well, I'm not going to be in a three-level house either without an elevator, which they could, I suppose, did. But if you have families in there at all, and like many of us in this town have grown up with small children that have been on bicycles, now a skateboard, and now powered scooters. Wait till you see somebody come down that driveway. And the idea that you're going to prohibit people from playing in the backyard or on the driveway that ain't happening. And I've seen that. And, everybody that has owned the house next door has had kids, and, they play where they want to play. Great. But you have to think about not only vehicular movement, but also pedestrian movement, resident movement that are going to go up and down that drive. So I don't think 2 feet cuts it. I think there's a couple other things you could do, but I think that a proper study to take a look at would be in order. And I don't think that any of the public entities in Manchester, neither fire has not spoken about the driveway because they believe they have front access with a ladder and they have people exiting. All residents are able to exit out front. I haven't talked to them about what happens if your ambulance, somebody gets into a problem on the driveway. That's a different thing. But I know police has not done a study public safety traffic. Well, so again, I like it, but I think you need to make it safe and have it work the way that it should.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Daniel Weaver, 12 Allen Avenue, also I've heard I own 30. I'm in favor of development. town, especially with a building that run down and hasn't been cared for years. I just really urge the board to make sure that safety is the number one thing. If you put in 3 units, 6 cars parked off the street, people coming in and out, that 6 trips a day, is that more than 6 trips a day? Are we talking big SUVs? There's just a lot of concerns about safely access truck with no street parking in front. I'm sure there's solutions for it. Buildings like this get built all the time. This is the main street in town. So how safe is it? And if all the officials say it's safe, then absolutely build the project. But don't know that that's the case today.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Lee on Classic Drive. I agree with Mr. Weld with the parking. It is on the ZBA and the planning board to know what the uses are, so you can require that amount of off parking. So depending upon what the commercial space is, you need to then put the table and determine how many off-street parking. So it can't be blocked. But what I'd actually like to do is reference the variance. I wrote it down so I forget. I am compelled to speak about the variance part of this app. A variance is an extraordinary form of relief that can be granted only when a true hardship arises from the soil conditions, state, or topography of the land itself. Here, the slope does not prevent use. The site already supports a large building and functional parking. Costly obstacles such as ledge removal and site work do not hardship. Chapter 40, Section 10. Wanting 3 floors to fit a preferred design or to avoid ledge removal is not hard. Input from town staff, resident opinions are advisory and cannot create legal hardship. A voluntary redesign that causes a zoning violation, self-created hardship, and is not grounds for a variance. Property owners cannot trade one zoning conflict for another simply because a preferred design no longer. If every homeowner could claim a taller building when their design required it, zoning rules would become meaningless. Granting 3 full floors would exceed the board's authority to stretch the law. Finally, while I support mixed use and the town has mixed buildings in practice, mixed use is not listed as permitted use in zoning. Under Mass General Law 48, Section 10 again, variance does not authorize the use that the bylaws allow. The existence of similar buildings elsewhere does not create a legal basis. So not sure how you be here.
Anyone? With that, I will go to Zoom. If you wish to speak on this application, please raise your hand. I see that Cindy has her hand raised. Go ahead, please.
Hi there. So
Please state your name and address.
Cindy Zager. I own property at 21 Union Street across the street. I just wanted to talk about the idea that this is adding 2 more cars and this issue that Mr. Weld has brought up with the safety. We're adding 2 cars and we're gaining so much more with this commercial space that I think that, it's something that really is it shouldn't be considered as a valid concern because it has been approved having 4 cars. That's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you. I don't believe it was approved by the ZBA to have 4 cars. I believe that. I don't believe there's been approval.
I think what she means is as of right.
Well, I'm not sure. That's okay. Go ahead, CD.
Hi, it's Christine Delisi. I was first linking up. I just wanted to just touch on something briefly. So the applicant is requesting relief to go from 2 units to 3. which, that's a density increase. And so if they're asking for a density bonus, I just feel this property owner has several units around town, and there does seem to be an underlying pattern of non-affordability. So if they're asking for another unit, I think that it's very fair to ask for an affordable unit out of this. I think that they're adding to our problem of unaffordability, and these units are just generally don't fall within the affordable range. They are mixed sizes, but adding something continually without any affordable we're just going in the wrong direction. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah's iPhone?
Hi, sorry, could you hear me?
Yes. Please state your name.
Okay, hi.
Please.
Thank you. Yeah, Sarah Pierce, 9 Front Street. I just want to get back to my notes for a second that I took throughout. This has been an ongoing project, and I'm going to summarize this in an email, but do want to bring it in front of the board tonight. So 22 Union Street, Cargo Unlimited, is a really special building to many people in town. And it's been established that it's been neglected, etc., and needs to move on to a different phase. The first plan for this building was no tear down by the attorney that presented this initially, no tear down of the cargo building. The second plan was 2 units with questionable parking either in the front or in the back, and the public did push back on parking in the front. Now we're moving to 3 units with 3 stories in an already densely populated area with very little parking. I have a bunch of questions and comments, so again, I will send this in via email, but I'll just kind of speak to this now. So I'm wondering, there's 6 parking spaces allotted for each residential unit. How are you accommodating the 3 storefront parking spaces?
No, so I think if she just wants to keep going through, I think
Yeah,
she's.
just keep raising. We're not going to
Okay.
answer all the questions.
Okay, so I took notes throughout, so I'm just wondering, we're very limited on parking throughout town, so commercial or residential. You go down School Street or Union Street or Beach Street, people are kind of lacking parking, so I want to put that out there. Then there was a mention of putting pea stone on top of the upper driveway. Is that going on top of ledge? That's one question. And then the topic of diverse housing. How is this adding to our diversity? It's been clearly stated that there is no affordability piece in this, but are we diverging from the norm of our scale and height requirements from our town? So high-end condos are diverse because why? And then there was a statement made by Mr. Zager, who I believe is the attorney and also lived across the street with his wife. I'm not sure, she just said that. Better for our climate. Please expand on the benefit or minimal detrimental effects to our small coastal town and how this project would be better for our climate. Then there was a comment made about people playing the driveway. Who is policing the quote playing in the driveway and what does that mean? And then there was a comment made, single families are potentially much smaller. There's a trend now in Manchester where the buildings that are going up are twice the size of the single families that have existed in Manchester and have been here for as long as I've lived, which I've lived in this town for 43 years. And it is very sad to me to see these overpowering large scale buildings with no allotted parking, and they're overtaking what used to give our town like its basic character and coastal charm. So I guess I'm wondering, what direction are we going in, and what is the end goal of adding this 2 developments to 3 developments to, I love the idea of the commercial because we need that, but where are people parking? And what are people coming to town for, to shop for? What are we offering the public? So I know that's a lot of information, questions and comments. I will follow up in an email. If anyone can answer any of that, that would be great, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand. Let's see. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Since
Name-
Will brought
name
it
and
up, my
address,
name is
please.
Gar Morse, and I own the old Zax building, and I wish Zax were still in there. But anyway, since he brought it up, I will give you a strange irony. We have like 7 or 8 parking spaces in that building, okay? It's amazing, at least three or 4 of the tenants either keep their car there and never drive it, or don't have a car. That's one of the beauties of Manchester, is if you live where he lives, if he had the power in his legs, he could walk down
I
to,
could walk down to Danvers, you're right.
he could walk to Crosby's for his grocery shopping. And that's one of the beauties of this town. As difficult as parking is, it's a town where you can almost get along without a car, which is, I realize it's not relevant, Madam Chairman, but that's my speech. There you go.
Hey, Zach, what's the Zach building?
It's that yellow building. It's
Yeah, for
it's
the-
the most architecturally
God.
significant
Oh, the yellow,
building
okay, the guy with the
in
violin.
the
Just see the
town.
guy with
Yeah,
the violin.
It's a beautiful.
That's Larry over there.
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert,
Wow.
please state your name and address.
Gary Gilbert, 11 Magnolia Ave. I've just got miscellaneous comments. As I recall, an original proposal was you have 2 curb cuts right on the street, have driveways, one curb, parking in front. Okay. To me, that would be horrible on many levels. Talk about safety, way less safe. It's also really would erode away our streetscapes in our town are charming, but we have too many what sometimes called missing teeth, too many voids, too many curb cuts going across the sidewalk, buildings perpendicular to the street with parking lots. There's too much anomalies. We need a consistent street wall, and it creates a sense of intimacy to walk around town. He's allowed to go to 35 feet high. People shouldn't talk about height on this project anymore. He's literally allowed to go taller than he's going. The street wall helped. The fact that he's bringing the building closer to the street is incredibly beneficial in terms of experience walking around. He could do a lot worse in previous proposals. This is a charming building with modulated facade. I think there's a lot of talk in town to try to encourage mixed use. Very quickly, we're going to be passing laws. We're going to have to be realistic. We can't be requiring lots of parking. You won't get the bill. They're hard enough to rent out as it is. We have to be realistic. We have to be a little flexible. He's got a real hardship here, as he's made the case of with the topography. He's going to make it better for the environment because it's going to be more impervious surface, less footprint of the building. Those are hard facts. We need more water absorption in town in general, so this is a plus on that level. Safety arguments, fire chief, I really think no one should be talking about that. Don't second guess the building inspector. They'll do their job. He won't get a permit if it doesn't satisfy. The egress, we shouldn't be spending time on that. In my opinion, happens a lot. People digress. But let those people give him a permit or not give him a permit. He's a responsible architect with experience. He's going to satisfy the. Let's see. I'm just about done. And one thing, I guess finally, big picture wise, we have a chance, you have a chance to right, maybe you could call it a wrong from way back when. When they set up the zoning for downtown, they didn't think it through all the way. It's not the same as up on Old West Road where you should have 2.5-story pitched roof homes and a certain amount of parking, and et cetera. Downtown should be treated differently. It's our village, it's our little town. The parking requirements should be varied. We shouldn't be requiring 5-foot setbacks. We should encourage 0 lot line setback to create that street wall and that charming experience with our town. And this 2/3 of a story is also an anomaly. It really shouldn't be a requirement. Makes sense out in the residential neighborhoods, but not downtown. We want to, I think eventually we're going to all vote that we want to see mixed use. We have to encourage, we shouldn't be requiring 2 2/3 story building.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Like everyone has spoken. Board. Seems to me that there have been issues raised. And I feel that we need additional information.
I would agree strictly on the fact that they hadn't seen the letter from the fire chief and his concern that you had raised. So that alone, I'm continuing the meeting until they at least had a chance to read the letter.
I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, I think Jake needs to be more informed of what is going on. I don't think he has a good representation of what's being presented right now. Like I said, stated earlier, my concerns are not so much that it's a back exit, but that there's no pathway out of the building to street level. When you're dealing with kids, driveway to me for a multi-family unit is not considered a good walkway when kids are involved. And that's my major concern with that. Trying to justify the difference in the 3 levels, that's another concern. And not having a specific plan for the main floor presented.
I mean, I just want to know, are we going to vote on 3 residentials or are we going to vote on what are we going to vote on?
That's
specific.
The uses in our town allow commercial retail and they allow residential.
Right.
So we would be voting on the exact number of units. And I believe on the exact amount of commercial space, we need to consider that because the requirements are different based on whether you've got 3,200 square feet of retail versus 140. I think we need to take that in.
And I think it's a great looking, to me, it's pretty looking place. I think it, look nice, be nice, but for us to give our actual decision, I think we need more information.
No, I agree with that. I think also sort of my question, if it was 3 residential, would that be an easier yes for 3 floors of residential? Is that an easier yes for the height versus not knowing? And I guess I'm concerned too, if it all looks commercial, but you have residential, and you switch, what does that first floor look like?
It'll be the same. The exterior of the building is not going to change. The design look commercial.
Yeah.
So, I mean, similar to, I'm not sure that across from us, the design sort of look commercial. Somebody can live in there, but it will look commercial. The other clarification to the board is where our intention is, we also need to go to the planning board units. And at that hearing, section 6.1.8 of the zoning bylaw allows the planning board to waive or reduce any of the parking requirements. So in connection with that application, we plan to ask the planning board to waive the parking requirements for the use. It's consistent with what's happening at Central. So that piece of the application of parking planning process, which will play out roughly. They do have the authority
mean, I have serious concerns over this. So I would like to see the traffic. I'd like to understand whether that access to the parking space behind the building is feasible without trespassing on an abutter's lane. Now, I'd like to understand what the potential volume increase and impact to Union Street, the cars coming down there. I mean, I look at my neighbors. I don't happen to drive much, I walk. I look at my neighbors. I look at my neighbors and without kids, they go out of their driveway 5 or 6 times a day. If you've got 6 vehicles each going out 5 or 6 times a day, that's a significantly different impact than the historic use of that driveway. Today you go by that driveway, you hardly ever see a car. Maybe now because it's rented, you do, but it's not you. So I think a traffic study would make sense, and I think we need the police chief to opine on that traffic study, and we need sign off from DPW, and we need the fire chief to look at the impact if there's no access to the residential units from the street.
I think that we take safety very seriously. It would be a disaster for us, developer, to build a project. Disaster. I guess and the fire chief on the access, that's one address. The parking study, I mean, this as of right, you could build 2 units. So we're really talking about 1 more unit. So I guess what I'd request was like a letter from a traffic engineer. I mean, I'm not sure what the scope of the traffic study. I mean, it'd be pretty unusual to have a full traffic study for a 3-unit building, or to have 1 more unit that built as of right.
Just to make it clear, we're not talking 1 more unit. We're talking a building that is currently retail to which you are adding 3 units. That's the change of use. 3 units.
But if we
not
weren't,
1.
but if we weren't here and we proceeded with the plan,
We're voting on the plan presented to us, which is 3 units.
And also mention that that's also a shared driveway,
Right,
which we haven't brought up.
common driveway.
Right.
of course. So you already have 1 residence. I mean, so it seems to us that the incremental increase versus what would be allowed as a right, which is 2-family, it doesn't really warrant a full traffic study. I mean, I think we can certainly get an opinion letter from a traffic engineer that's looked at it, and maybe that might be enough. I mean, if the public works and police and fire, find deficiencies in that, I think we could expand. But I think it's pretty tall hurdle to say that a traffic study that you would be doing for a large apartment building or
Red flag.
We've closed off public comment.
We want to address your concern. We're not saying no, but I think the scope of the traffic
I
study.
think, in my mind, there are 3 things. Okay. 1 is the accessibility in the rear for the maneuvering of 6 vehicles. Okay. Number 2 is, what is the expected number of trips, daily trips that one would have from 6 cars and 3 units? And the third is pedestrian access.
Pedestrian access to the unit.
From the units to the street if you don't have access from the street. If you have access to the units from the street, then I'm not concerned about pedestrian. If you don't have access to the street direct on the first level, then I have concerns about the little kiddos. And, you know, you might even consider, is there a way to put a staircase, you know, to have a vestibule or something on the first level that would then give you staircases to the residential from the street?
Sure, that's absolutely fair. That scope is absolutely fair. I think we'd be happy to address those points.
Okay.
I was just worried we're full,
Yeah.
when you say
No.
traffic study,
But the police chief isn't gonna be able to give us an opinion unless he understands how many, the expected number of trips. He wouldn't know.
I mean, the IT, for units like this, the ITE standard is generally 5-6 trips per day per unit, but we can address that in a letter. I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for. We want to assure the community that it's going to be a safe project. We're not looking to run this thing through. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable. That scope is very fair. That's fine.
We want something definitive on that first floor, whether or not you're gonna have access to the residential. Okay. Anything else? So you're willing to continue it?
Of course.
To December or January?
What's
December is the 17th, relatively full meeting. January would be the 28th. I prefer January, but that's okay.
We'd rather do December. Be that far out.
Matt, planning board?
That's not our issue.
No, it's not. Never mind, no, don't worry.
No, we're at the fourth Wednesday of the month. The only time we do the third Wednesday is in November and December because of the holidays.
The best Thanksgiving.
Okay. At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue the public hearing to December 17th at 7 p.m. Do I have a
Second that motion.
George, a second. Oh, John? Robin?
Yes.
Georgia? Yes. Colleen?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And Sarah votes yes.
She needs a signature.
Yes. Yeah, but if you also want to size
Freaking air right here, it's drying my head.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, close meeting.
I gotta find my agenda. I have a knack of
To warn anything that could potentially be going on. Our driveway. So,
I live in Sarah.
Yeah. And so I actually, like, I lay on the porch. And I'm like, something. I know, but we, so, one, I think that, whatever gets built. Some they need to do something.
No, it might be.
You see,
Actually, come to think of it.
in cities where
And I've got all this.
there's like a little signal
Yeah.
and that a pedestrian know that it's coming down. It's just like a little movement thing.
Yeah.
And then it only comes on
When something that's not safe.
Yeah. You know,
You don't need me around anymore, do you?
We're not done yet.
But I'm done.
Your video's on, aren't you? You stay for the whole meeting. Excuse me, we need to continue with our meeting. We need to continue with our meeting.
We'll follow this guy, he's a deal.
Thank
Always
you.
take you.
I'll talk to you in a bit.
The next item on the agenda is to review the minutes from October. If people have an opportunity to look at those. Did you have any comments?
I did not. They were beautiful.
It's all being done by AI now.
Is it really?
ChatGPT
Good
did.
job, ChatGPT.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of October, yeah.
Treasurer moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Rob, seconds. Take a vote.
Approved.
John? Rob? Georgia?
Yes.
John? And Sarah votes yes. Okay. So that's that. There's one decision that I'm working on that's outstanding from that last meeting. I'm gonna work on it soon. That's the one from the corner of School Street and Crafts Court, the garage.
Okay. Yeah.
We have 2 new applications for December.
Oh. Is that good or bad?
3 Eagle Head and 38 C Street.
Okay, single family homes.
They're both non-conforming homes doing
Shocking.
difference. What?
I said shocking.
Shocking, hearing it.
Well, you're the one that said that 80% of the homes in here are non-conforming anyway.
I
Right?
mean, look at it. It's all...
No, 67%.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So what will happen in December is we'll hear the 48 Norwood Ave first, and then Cargo, and then we'll move to the new applications.
Okay. Are the new applications ADUs? By any or,
No,
okay,
they're just,
great.
they're just, I mean,
Whatever they're doing.
One of them is,
We'll see the
And-
applications when they come in. How's that?
yeah.
But not nothing too...
They're relatively minor.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Sorry, John. No more questions. I'm all done.
Anything else?
I gotta
Nope.
go to work in the morning.
So just getting on my count, so the 13th, which is that Saturday, you'll want to do the site.
Oh,
visit?
thank you, yes.
Okay.
Site visits will be Saturday at 9:30. And we'll do C Street, then Eagle Head.
You're right there.
That's on
Yeah.
my way.
Yeah.
C Street's one way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go from town.
I will not be there for the site visits. I'll be
Okay.
out of town, just so
Okay.
you know.
Anything else? Take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Approved.
Yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much,